Hello and welcome to Imaginations from the UMAC Futures. My name is Zhao from the Electronic Science and Technology Museum, University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. So it's in Chengdu, Sichuan, China. I work as the co-chair of the UMAC Futures as well, which is an organization of young scholars from university museums around the world. In Imaginations project, we made online talks with emerging scholars from different university museums, different countries, and different districts to listen to their voice and to follow the imaginations from them. So it's kind of the description and observation from their perspectives to re-image and to reconstruct the university museum community after the pandemic. So we hope it bring more hope, energy, and vitality. We have interviewed 9 speakers, and we posted the videos to the UMAC website and the YouTube channel. Today, we are going to talk with Michelle de la Harpe. She is a young scholar from South Africa. Let's welcome Michelle. And she is a museum archivist at the University of Pretoria Museums, South Africa. And Michelle worked on the technologies and the tourist guiding. As a technology guy, I'm so curious about her work. So could you please say hello to the audience, Michelle, and give us a brief introduction of you and yourself?
Sure, yes, yeah. Like Dr. K said, I'm Michelle, and I work at the University of Pretoria Museums. We're located on the beautiful main campus of the University of Pretoria. We have various galleries, and I specifically work in the museum archive that we've established this year. But I've also completed my studies at the university, so my scholarly and career has so far been at the university.
All right, I'm so glad we have you here today, Michelle, and we have enough time to share your ideas and your research about your university museum and the collections there. So we have just 4 questions, very simple for you in this formal interview. The first question is, what is the specific program or project you are working on right now, and why is that? Just now we have get to know some information from your introduction, and could you talk a little bit more from both visitors' perspective and the museum staff's perspectives? Thanks.
Yes, so we've actually this year established our museum archive. As we've received a lot of collections and donations over the years, we've also received a lot of documents and photographs that accompany these collections. So there was really a need to have a space where we can preserve those items, look through them, help just organize them so researchers can use them as well. Because we have all these beautiful objects in our collections, and you need the context for those objects, because really without context, objects don't mean a lot. So that is what I'm busy doing. I'm busy establishing the archive. We're very much still in the beginning stages, but we hope that it will be a wonderful repository to get information on all the items in our university museums collections. So that's what we're busy with. And we hope to make it a more accessible archive as well, not just for researchers, but for visitors as well. Because I think a lot of people, especially general public, don't always know what goes on in the archive, or the preservation, the background dealings, and where we get all the information from. And we really want to make that more accessible to members of the public as well.
Yeah, that's fabulous when I heard your work there. And how many pieces, how many items do you have in your archive?
There's a lot. There's thousands of documents and letters and pages. The university actually is celebrating its 100 years of collecting art. So we started in 1922, and since the beginning, there has been letters, there has been photographs. So I'm organizing, and every week we find a box in some department or some storage area that needs to be sorted out. So it's increasing. And actually, I think my archive space is getting a bit small even. So we're working through a lot of information, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. because this is also always a challenge. We lost the documents in the past, right? Some reasons, because in China we may have some challenges like this. We moved the university from the campus to the new campus, so we lost most of them. And I'm so glad that you guys in your university museum, you have stored all the documents there, and you keep collecting. And from the 1922 till now, it's a huge treasure, right? So yes. And what did you do to take advantage of the archives to the public? How did you do that?
How do we market our archives to the public? Or
yes.
So yes, no. So like I said, we've just started. So as soon as it will be more usable by researchers, it'll definitely go on our website. And we're a smallish building, and if people keep asking, what's in that room over there, and it'll be an open archive, so people will be welcome to come and have a look at the archive. So whatever public members we receive at the museum, they will be able to come to the archive as well. So whatever marketing is going on for the museums, we have a close relationship with the museum collections and the archives.
Yeah, that's good. That's cool. Did the research and the students in your university, they use your archive as well?
Yes, they will be able to use it as well. We have at the university, we have our university archives. So we have the big institutional repository. So that's where all the other stuff goes to. And we also have the archive specifically for our artworks. So that's what the art students mostly use. And then I have all the other stuff. I have all the letters of provenance and stuff for the that you can use to get context to specific objects. So if there's any researchers or students wanting to look at our collection specifically, and they're not always aware that there's all these documents or photographs that they can have a look at as well. They only just wanted to see the object usually, but it usually opens up so many channels to come and view the documents and the photographs that's attached to these objects.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So I'm so generous that you have a complete system for your university museum, because not every single museum, university museum has an archive department like that. And yes, okay, let's move to the second question. Can you describe the most unforgettable experience when you are dealing with the project, this program?
I think that is a very interesting question, and it's a bit difficult to answer because honestly, there's not one wow thing. It's like all these little wow things that you discover weekly. Like I mentioned, every week I'm finding a box with documents, and you don't know what kind of information is in there. You don't know what you're going to find. So you find all these little treasures along the way. It's like a treasure hunt. And it's always exciting when you find something out about a specific sculpture or an artwork that you haven't known before. So I would really say that I think it's made up of all these little exciting finds that you get throughout researching and throughout sorting through these boxes. And I think it's all these little puzzle pieces that make like the whole picture complete. So it's not just one thing, it's all these little things. Yeah.
All right, I'm so glad for you, Michelle, because you love this, you love your job, and you regard every small challenge as a little puzzle, and you want to fix them and you want to discover them. Okay, thank you. And let's move to the third question. If you are creating an exhibition, although maybe you didn't do that, and imagine that you were creating an exhibition, what object do you want to collect or display most related to the past 2 years experience?
So in the last 2 years, I have really started to discover our collections, working with the documents, but I've also worked with the object as well. So I've seen what we have in our storage, and most museums, only like 10% of what they have is on exhibition. There's this whole bunch of other objects that are kept in storage. And I obviously am very interested in all the historical artifacts. And I would just love to see more of our amazing collections that are currently in storage to be exhibited. But then again, I must always also say that we have an amazing art committee, and they select artwork every year to buy for the university from contemporary African artists. And it's always nice to see our exhibition spaces with like all these new items, as well as our historical items that have a long history. And I really like to see that balance in our gallery spaces.
All right. So did you have exhibitions, temporary exhibitions? How many temporary exhibitions were there in your university museum in the past few years?
So we don't have a lot of temporary exhibitions. We mostly have fixed exhibitions. So we have our ceramics gallery, and we have a huge collection of Dutch artworks and furniture. And we also have our Mapungubwe collection, which is quite interesting. The Mapungubwe is an archaeological site in the north of South Africa, and our university has done excavations on the area. So we have all that archaeological collections and documents, and then also all the objects that were excavated there, the gold and the ceramics. So that's the kind of spaces we have. But we're actually, it's very exciting because we have started talking about putting up these temporary exhibitions, like focusing on one artist that we have in the collection. And I think our biggest issue at the moment is just finding the space. Because our campus is quite full, and it's already, but we're making space, we're changing things up, looking to the future. So that is in the plans for the next few years.
Space, more space is always a challenge for us university museums, and because of a huge connection, that's also, on the other hand, is an opportunity for us to get more space. So it's very cool. And could you please tell a little bit more about your program, about the visitors, the tourism, I mean, you have wrote some articles about them. Could you tell us a little bit more your articles?
Yes, so in my honors here, I wrote a few articles, and that's what my thesis was about as well, about tourist guiding and the new technologies that you get in tourist guiding, all the apps that you get. And it's actually funny because I read this in 2017, and the technology has already advanced so much since 2017 that some of my things are outdated that I read about. And it's very exciting because every year you get all these new innovative technologies that they implement in museums. But what I was specifically looking at is what role the human tourist guides still play in the museum spaces and other tourist destinations as well. So you have all these apps and you have all these technologies to assist members of the public with going through the tours and walking through museum galleries on their own. But what role does the human tourist guide still play? So that's what I was looking at. And basically my point was that you cannot ever really replace the virtual with the real. You need that real experience. You need the human connections in the museums to provide the narratives. And honestly, that's what people want. And you see that after COVID, even now when we opened up now, you see people coming to the museums. They want to have that physical experience with knowledgeable tourist guides and curators. So I think that's very interesting to see. But yeah, now when I read this about tourist guides and new technologies, I obviously had no idea of the pandemic that was going to come, and how much that will add to creating all these wonderful technologies. So it's very exciting to see, but I'm still glad that people keep coming back to the real thing.
Yeah. And you wrote the article at the right time, and it was very worth discussion, because with the increasing of the advantages of the new technologies, sometimes we lost the connection between people, or the people between people and the museum. And the museum is like a platform to help to support the connection between people and from discipline to another discipline. It's like an interdisciplinary platform, right? I think it's the best interdisciplinary platform for us, for stuff in the education sector. Okay, all right, let's move to the last question, Michelle. It's kind of a relay question. You mean, I call it a question in the bottle flow from Spain to South Africa now. The question from the last speaker Melvina from University of Granada, Spain. She is a teacher in history of art there. She asked, I have read in different articles that university museums are great unknown, but why? Because universities are full of people. Many of them organize temporary exhibitions with their heritage. Like you can curate some art exhibitions, right? So her question is, why are the university museums are unknown? And what do university museums need to be known? I think she might ask how to improve the visibility of university museums. Okay, so it's your time.
Yes, yes. Now, I think that's an excellent question because, all museums need to stay relevant. They need to stay visible. But I think when it comes specifically to university museums, we are part of a bigger institution. We have our parent institution, we have the university. And I think much of the responsibility of making the museum known falls on this relationship between the institution and the museum. And I think the institutions can do a lot to make their museums more visible and to market it to the public through all the various public relation channels. But then again, it's on the responsibility of the museum to make sure that the institution know why they are relevant and what amazing collections they have. The university can't advertise something that they don't know about, and I think it's, especially with museum universities, a lot relies on that institutional relationship that they have with the university. And but then, yes, I think in museums in general as well, we've seen with the COVID-19 pandemic now, our museums really had to move out of our comfort zones. Before the pandemic, we weren't really on social media, but now we're on social media. We post a lot, and we've also established our Google Arts and Culture platform. And that has really helped us. Yes, that really helped us increase our audience. It's a much wider audience now, and we get interest from all around the world to see our collections. And I think that really opened up channels. So really, museums shouldn't be afraid to move out of their comfort zones. And I think especially in Africa, because so many of our museums, they aren't featured online. You only know them if you go to the town and you visit the museum. But I think we can do a lot more if we actually get online, and then, yes, also make sure that the institution, the university, knows who we are, knows that we are important, because we are important.
Yeah. Thank you. It's cool, Michelle. You have this idea, and I would like to share some ideas of mine. I think the first thing is that we, first of all, we are university museum, so we have to believe in that the first purpose is education. If the visibility is relevant to the education, I think it's the best mission we have to make, right? And sometimes we have to regard the visibility as from a right angle. So it's my first idea. And for now, for the past 2 or 3 years, it's the best thing to make us open to the public. Maybe in the history of university museum, there are some museums it's been called the first generation university museums. They just teach and research, and the second generation university museums, they open to the public. So now I think it's a third generation of university museums, right? I didn't know. Yes. It's just proposed by myself. With research, teaching, and with open to the responsibility to open to the public, and we have to enhance the connection beyond the national level to the international level. Just now you mentioned the art and culture in Google, and yes, in the past year, in 2 years, I have seen many exhibitions in that platform, and I think it's just beyond the international level. So very nice, very cool question and answer. And okay, so to maintain the reader question, what is your question to the next speaker.
I think my question, in line with the research that I've done, would be, do you think that the virtual object and the virtual experience can be just as good as the real object or experience? And then why or why not?
All right. It's very connected with your major and with your field. I have read some articles and I have thought about this. 3 years ago, I wrote an article about AR technology in University Museum, and we developed an AR system in our museum. And I found that in the history, AR application in museum is just like a coincidence. Because in 1960s, the AR technology is to, supply the lack of function of computer. So it replaced some real objects of the situation, the AR technology, compared with VR, virtual reality. So it's like that. And now, if we want to make the object alive, we want to make the exhibition alive, we could use some technology like that with real things and virtual things to make the combination. I think it's a tendency, or just it's my opinion, and it can't replace all the objects, the real object. I mean, because people come to the university museum or to the museum, they want to touch, they want to watch the object. And if we are just in the virtual situation, I think it's not real. And I don't know. Let's just see, because I know in the technology field now, some experts have developed a glove that the glove. If you wear the gloves, you can feel that feeling. The feeling of the real object. So let's just see. It's a question that worth discussing. So okay.
Yes,
all right. Well, okay. Well, give this question to the next speaker, and I'll tell you the answer, his or her answer to you. Okay. all right, Michelle.
That will be very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting, and it's I think many experts should write something about this. Yes, maybe you can write one.
Yeah. Maybe, yes.
Yes. Okay, so thank you very much, Michelle. It was really a fruitful talk with you, and of course, thanks to our audience. Hope them enjoy it and join us next time. At last, I would like to say, we are coming, UMAC Futures. That's all from me today, and see you next time.